Welcome to the Witchy Work Wishes podcast, a place to find your weekly inspiration for bringing your personal witchcraft practice into your business, work, and office. Welcome to Witchy Work Wishes and to a little circle gathering of our own today. I'm so glad you are here with me because the wolves over the past couple of weeks gave us some intuition and some boundaries, some protection, a little bit more about knowing ourselves and knowing our pack. And now I would love to move into one of the more foundational practices in witchcraft, creating sacred space. No. You probably just thought casting a circle. It's just one of those phrases that gets tossed around a bit. And not just cast your circle, but open your circle, close your circle. But when you first started out, did you wonder, like I did, what that actually means? Am I drawing something? Am I protected? Am I trapping energy? Am I inviting something in? What happens if I do it wrong? So we are going to jump into the whole thing today, casting a witch's circle, creating sacred space between the worlds. Now, I always like to give my little updates, but I just don't have too many of them this week. All is steady and busy in the corporate world, for sure. In the personal world, I'm officially starting to get ready for my annual mountain trip. And if you've been with me for a while now, you have probably heard me talk about this place multiple times. It isn't just a random vacation spot for me. This is a place my family has been going to since before I was born. My mom's side of the family started going there just a few years after it opened, and I've been staying in the same little cabin ever since. Well, it's not, that exact cabin every single year. We have stayed in other ones too, but usually this is the one. This specific cabin is the one with the most tally marks. And I don't know if you guys have places like this in your life. Places where the second you arrive, your whole body recognizes right where you are. Like your nervous system just goes, okay, we're here. The mountains do that for me. The smell of the trees, the sound of the creeks and streams, the same trails, the same rocks, these same little moments that somehow connect every version of yourself together. There was little kid me running around those mountains, teenage me, young mom me bringing my little boys there, and now this version of me with my adult boys. And every year I am technically, returning to the same place, but I am never returning as the same person. I think that is one of the things I love so much about having places we revisit throughout our lives. They become these little markers, and they quietly show us how much we have changed. So I'm starting the, packing lists. The big mead order has been placed. I'm gathering my books, my journal, probably way too many coffee supplies because, priorities, right? I'm just really looking forward to some quiet mountain time. Some sitting by the water time, some remembering and dreaming and just being time. I'm also looking ahead and doing some planning because I want to make sure everything here stays on track while I am tucked away in the mountains, and that means I will be recording some episodes early. I always think this part is kind of funny because if you've been with me for a while, you know this first section of the podcast is usually where I share, what is happening in real time in my real life, my chickens, my garden, my business, the random little magical moments that pop up during the week. So if you notice those episodes in August don't have much of a personal beginning, that is why. It is not because I disappeared. It is actually quite the opposite. It is because I wanted to make sure everything was ready before I left, so you and I did not miss a beat. Our Wednesday mornings together are still going to happen. The Patreon posts are still going to be there. The episodes will be waiting for you. I will just be somewhere in the trees, next to the creek, probably with a cup of coffee, a notebook, and hopefully a little mountain inspiration to bring back home with me. And who knows? Knowing me, I'll probably come back with a whole list of new ideas and stories to share. Let's say we are getting really, really close to a very big milestone here at Witchy Work Wishes. Today is episode 196, which means we are only a few circles around the fire away from episode number 200. 200. That just feels surreal. When this journey started, I had no idea where this path would take us. I just knew I wanted to create, a little space where we could talk about magic and nature and seasons, share some stories and some symbolism, share our personal growth, and all of the little moments where the ordinary world and the magical world meet. And here we are. Here we are, almost 200 conversations later. 200 times we have gathered together. 200 times we have made a little space in our busy lives to learn and reflect and laugh and explore, maybe see the world a little differently. And how perfect that, as we approach this milestone, today's episode is about circles. Oh, maybe that's what we've been creating here all along. A circle, a little gathering place and community, a place where we can show up exactly as we are and learn together. So, from the bottom of my heart, my goodness, thank you. Whether this is your first episode or you have been here since the beginning, thank you. I really thank you for being a part of this circle and celebrating, or almost, we're almost there, celebrating 200 episodes with me. But you know what? Let's cast another one today. We are talking about circles today. And before we dive deep into casting one, I'm going to do a quick plug. I would love to invite you into one of my circles. Our next Hearth and Hen live gathering will be Saturday, July 25th. And I cannot think of a better time to open up our circle again. Because everything we are about to talk about is exactly why I created this space. Humans have always gathered in circles, around fires, around stories, shared wisdom, around moments that matter. And you know what? Hearth and Hen is our little modern version of that ancient practice. A place where we can slow down and connect, talk about the magic showing up in our everyday lives, and remember that we do not have to walk this path alone. You do not need to have any answers. You don't need to have the perfect practice. You don't need to bring anything except for yourself. And maybe a little curiosity and a cozy cup of something, coffee, tea, because together we create the circle, share the stories, and together we learn. So if you've been feeling called to find a little more community on your path, I would absolutely love to have you join us on Saturday the 25th. The circle is open. Just head to my website, witchyworkwishes.com, and you'll find all of the information and links about our little live gathering circles. Now, a circle. It's not just a shape, right? It's not just a ritual step or something we read about in our witchcraft books. The circle is one of humanity's oldest symbols. The circle has no beginning, it has no ending. There's no hierarchy. There's no corners where energy gets stuck either. Think of the moon, the sun, the wheel of the year, birth, life, death, rebirth. We already live inside circles. And when a witch casts a circle, they are intentionally stepping into one. There is no coincidence that this episode is airing today. This past weekend rang in a new year for me. It was a birthday weekend. And in the more recent years, I have added an annual event to my witchcraft practice, casting a birthday circle. And I know birthdays are normally about the outward celebration, the party, the dinner, the cake, the messages, the gathering with people we love. And I love all of that. Celebration is important. Being loved by your people is important. Allowing others to celebrate your existence is important too. But as I have gotten older, it has become more and more important for me to create a little space on this day that is just mine. A moment where I am not hosting or planning or taking care of anyone else. I am not moving on to the next responsibility. I am just being. A birthday is a threshold, right? It's a doorway of sorts. It is the closing of one personal year and the opening of another. And we honor so many other cycles, don't we? We honor the seasons changing. We honor the moon moving through her phases. We honor the wheel of the year turning. But we are moving through cycles too. We have our own wheel within our own seasons, our own beginnings and our own endings. And so my birthday circle has become a place where I just meet myself, where I look back and ask, what did this past year teach me? What did I survive? What did I create? What am I proud of? What am I ready to release? And then I turn towards the year ahead. Who am I becoming? What energy do I want to invite in? And what wisdom am I carrying forward? I think we have always created little circles to mark moments that mattered. A birthday circle just says, this moment matters. This transition matters. My life matters, and this next chapter deserves intention. We are really good at giving other people gifts, right? But this is a gift that we can give ourselves: the permission to pause and honor the journey, the permission to recognize that we are not the same person who stood here a year ago. Like, we entered the forest, we learned, we changed, and now we return, ready to begin the next circle. So each year I cast a pretty elaborate birthday circle. It is probably one of the few really highly ceremonial practices that I personally do. My day to day witchcraft looks very different. My everyday practice is much more like, hey, I'm making some bread today. I'm adding rosemary for protection. I'm stirring my intention into the dough, and I'm carving the Othala rune on top. And then I'm going to share it with my family. But my ceremonial practices are different. They're less frequent for sure. I absolutely do them, I love them, but they are not my everyday practice. Those are the moments where, I choose a very specific time, I prepare my space, I arrange my altar, I call the directions, I speak the words, I follow the ritual. And the birthday circle, that is the big one for me, every year now. And as I was getting ready for July, thinking about casting this special circle, thinking about what this year's circle would mean, and, about the year that I'm leaving behind, as well as the year I'm stepping into, I thought maybe this is the perfect time for us to have this conversation too. And not just the circles we cast around us, but the ones we are creating within our own lives. So find your cozy spot, take a deep breath, and settle in with me for the next hour. Because today we are creating our own little circle together. A space to learn and explore and remember something that humans have just known for thousands of years: that there are moments in our lives worth pausing for, moments worth honoring, moments where we get to step away from the noise of, everyday life and say, something different happens here. Today, we are talking about one of the most recognized and meaningful practices in witchcraft: casting a witch's circle. Well, before we get into the steps of casting a circle and calling the directions, bringing in the elements and all of the beautiful ritual pieces that many of us practice today, I think we need to begin somewhere much, much older. Because circles did not begin with modern witchcraft, they began with humanity. If we look back through history, across just about all of the cultures and across all of the continents, we see people creating sacred spaces, places where the ordinary world and the spiritual world just seem to meet. We see ancient stone circles. Oh my gosh, some are built thousands of years ago, aligned with the sun, the moon, the seasonal changes. These places remind us that our ancestors were watching the sky, tracking the rhythm of nature, and creating spaces where they could gather, honor, and connect. We see communities gathering around fire circles, and I just love thinking about this because imagine our earliest ancestors sitting together beneath the stars just like we do today. Fire was warmth, it was protection, it was survival, but it was also something else. It was where stories were told, where wisdom was passed down, where our elders taught the younger generations, where community happened, really. Just like the village we talked about last week, the circle around the fire created a place where everyone belonged. And we still do this today, don't we? I do, you do. Think of how naturally we form circles. We, of course, still sit around a campfire, but we also gather around a kitchen table. We create circles for conversations, ceremonies, celebrations, grief, healing, and connection. There's just something deeply instinctive about it. A circle says, come closer. A circle says, be present. Something important is happening here. And throughout our history, we see different examples of sacred circles. We see sacred groves where people gathered around trees. We see ritual spaces intentionally created and honored. We see traditions like medicine wheels within some indigenous cultures, which are, sacred practices with their own histories and teachings. But what all of these remind us is that humans have always understood that space carries energy. There's a difference between a random patch of ground and a place where people have gathered with intention. A place where prayers have been spoken and stories have been shared. A place where transformation has happened. And that brings us right to the witch's circle. Because when we cast a circle, we are continuing this very old human practice of creating sacred space. We are saying, for this moment, this place is different. I am stepping away from, like everyday noise, everyday worries, everyday responsibilities. And I am stepping into a space where I can listen, create, heal, reflect, and connect. The circle becomes a threshold, a doorway, a place between. I think that is partly why the symbol of the circle itself has always been so powerful, too. A circle has no beginning, no ending. It just moves like the seasons. We do not just create circles, we really do live inside them. So, what does casting a circle actually do? Right, fair enough. We understand humans have been creating sacred spaces for thousands of years. Let's bring this into our modern witchcraft. Now, when I first started learning more about witchcraft, casting a circle felt different. It felt a little intimidating. Right? You open a book and it says, first, cast your circle. I don't know about you guys, but I was like, what do you mean? What does that mean? Am I protected inside something? Am I calling something? Oh my gosh, what happens if I do it wrong? And like so many things in witchcraft, if we just peel away some of the mystery and fear, we find something really beautiful underneath it. And I did. At its foundation, casting a circle is about creating intentional space. It is a way of telling your mind, your body, your spirit, and your energy something different is happening now. I am intentionally moving away from my everyday world into my magical practice. I am becoming present. I am paying attention. And depending on your tradition, your beliefs, and the type of work you're doing, that circle can represent different things. For some of us, the circle is a container. And I actually do really like this visualization. Think about a bowl holding water, right? The bowl doesn't create the water, right? The bowl doesn't control the water. It simply gives the water somewhere to gather. A circle can do much the same thing with energy. When we do spell work, meditation, divination, journey work, or ritual, we are raising energy, right? We are focusing our thoughts and emotions towards something. The circle becomes the container that holds that focus. For others, the circle might be more of a boundary. This is where I think we can connect back to our wolf episodes. Because what does the wolf teach us? Well, the wolf understands territory, not from a place of anger or fear, but from a place of wisdom. The wolf says, "This is where my family is safe. This is where my responsibility begins. This is what I protect." And when we cast a circle, we are doing something similar. We are saying, "This is my energy. This is my space. This is where my attention belongs right now." And oh my goodness, I wish I could do this more intentionally outside of circle work. Like, how many times do we give away our energy, like all day long, to emails, to other people's emotions, to responsibilities and worries, to the endless list of things that we carry? A circle, though, it is simply the practice of saying, for this moment, I return to myself. A circle can be a focusing tool also. Our brains are just super busy. We can sit down for meditation and suddenly remember, oh my gosh, I need laundry detergent, or I forgot to reply to somebody, or oh my gosh, the chicken coop, it needs cleaning. And wait, what are we doing for dinner? Right? Do you guys do that? Our minds just naturally wander. Creating a circle helps signal not right now. It really can be a focusing tool. Like for this moment, I am right here. It helps us shift from ordinary awareness into intentional awareness. A circle can also be a threshold. And I love threshold magic. Doorways, crossroads, edges, the spaces between, the village and the enchanted forest, right? A circle is a magical threshold. You are stepping from one state of being into another. You're not leaving the world behind. You're simply choosing to experience it differently for just a little bit. Now, a circle does not always have to be viewed as this giant, energetic fortress where, everything outside is dangerous and everything inside is safe. I mean, it can be protective, absolutely. Yes, many of us use circles specifically for protection, but everyday practice, I think of it less like building a wall and more like lighting a candle. Like the room was already there, but now your attention has changed. The energy has shifted. The moment has been marked. You have told yourself, hey, for this moment, I am stepping out of the noise of everyday life and into intentional space. One of the most common practices that you're going to see with witches casting a circle is calling the four directions. Now, depending on where you are doing your research or what book you're reading about it, you may hear it referenced as calling the quarters, calling the elements, or maybe inviting the energies of the four directions. And again, different traditions practice this differently. Some witches call guardians or watchtowers. Some work with spirits or deities connected to the directions. Some of us just simply acknowledge the elements themselves. I don't know that there is like a universal practice shared by every witch on this one, but I think at the heart of most traditions is this beautiful idea that before we begin our work, we acknowledge the world around us, right? The air we breathe, the fire that warms us, the water that flows through us, and the earth that holds us. We remember that we are not separate from nature, we are a part of it. Most of us begin with east, the direction of air. And I really like that we begin here because what is the very first thing we do when we enter this life? We take a breath, right? Air is our beginning. It is the element of thought and ideas, communication, inspiration. It's all about new possibilities. It really is the moment before creation, that spark of an idea, the whisper that says, what if? When we call on air, we might be asking for clarity, a little wisdom, new perspective maybe, or, the ability to see something differently. We take a deep breath and we feel ourselves arrive. Then we move to the south, the direction of fire. And if air is the idea, well, then fire is where we decide to do something about it. Fire is passion, courage, transformation, movement. It is the flame that says, take action. And we've talked about this so much this year, right? With Beltane and Litha and the sacred masculine. Fire is creation energy. But fire also transforms. It changes everything it touches. A piece of wood enters the fire and it does not leave the same. Neither do we. Neither do we when we move through seasons of transformation. So when we call on fire, we might be asking for courage, motivation, strength, or maybe the bravery to become who we are meant to become. Then we move to the west. This is the direction of water. And you guys know this is where I personally spend a lot of my time. Moon magic, emotional work, intuition, reflection. This has been a big part of my healing journey for the past 5 years. Water invites us inward. Water wants to know, what are you feeling? What do you know beneath the surface? Water teaches us to listen. And like we've talked about so many times before, the ocean is powerful whether it is calm or whether there's a storm. Like both are part of its nature. So when we call on water, we may be calling in healing, compassion, dreams, or maybe intuition. Water just helps things to flow. And then we come to the north, the direction of earth, our grounding, our foundation, our roots. Earth reminds us to come back home. Come back to your body. Come back to the present moment. It is the garden, the trees, the mountains, and the soil beneath our feet. And I think there's something really beautiful about ending the four directions here, because after all of the ideas, transformation, and emotions, Earth asks us, how will you bring this into your life? Because wisdom that never becomes action is just information, right? Hello, wolf spirit. We have the village with our air element. We have the enchanted forest with our fire and water elements. Earth is where knowledge becomes wisdom. We come back home. Earth is where the magic becomes real. I know some practices expand beyond the four directions. They can include above, below, within. Above is the sky, the stars, the cosmos, the moon and sun, the great mystery above us. Nice little reminder that we are part of something larger. I'll say below is the roots, the earth beneath us, our ancestors, and the generations that came before us, and that kind of unseen foundation holding us. Within is, after looking east, south, west, north, after we have looked above and below, we come back to ourselves, the magic within, the intuition and wisdom within, the witch within. Because casting a circle is not just about creating sacred space around you, it is also remembering the sacred space that already exists inside of you. Well, let's answer the question all of us eventually ask. How do you cast a circle? First, I just want to say there are many ways to cast a circle. The way I do it might not resonate with you, and the way you have read other witches describe it might not resonate either. Different traditions have different methods. Some are very ceremonial and structured, passed down through specific paths and practices. Others are going to be incredibly simple. Your circle may look different than my circle, and that's okay. Because remember what I mentioned earlier, the purpose of the circle is intention. It is creating some type of shift. It's just marking a moment, saying something different happens here. Now, one of the most traditional ways that you will see a circle cast is by physically walking the circle. You typically begin in the east, take a breath, connect with air, and then slowly walk around your space. Many of us move clockwise, especially, if we are going to be creating, building, inviting, or calling energy in. And as you walk, you just kind of imagine this energetic circle forming around you. Maybe you picture light, maybe you picture roots, maybe you picture a protective forest or a warm fire surrounding your space. Again, remember the wolf, right? The wolf does not need a fence to understand its territory. The wolf knows. And sometimes circle casting is simply the witch saying, I know this space. Like, I know this energy. I am present here. And the whole clockwise, counterclockwise stuff is really important because movement itself can become symbolic. And try it and see if you like it. I personally do. I know many witches use, clockwise movement to represent building and creating, inviting and growing. And then counterclockwise movement is used for, releasing, removing, letting go, and just closing. The direction becomes part of the intention, and the body participates in the magic. Now, some of us use tools. You may see someone use a wand, an athame, or their hand even, their finger maybe. It's important to know that because it's easy to get caught up in the tools. And don't get me wrong, I love magical tools. I love the history of them. I love the symbolism. I love the feeling of choosing something special for your practice. A wand can represent your connection with nature. A blade can represent focus and direction. A candle can represent transformation and illumination. Let's see, smoke. Smoke can represent cleansing and transition. A bell, drum, or singing bowl can use sound to shift the energy of a space. I personally use rocks from up in the mountains, my home away from home, to help make my circle. Tools are beautiful, but they are not where the magic lives, right? The tools simply help us focus it. Now, sometimes your circle might be completely invisible. No candles, no altar, no tools. Maybe you are sitting in your car before a difficult conversation. Maybe you're taking 3 deep breaths before walking into a meeting. Maybe you are standing barefoot in your backyard with your morning coffee, looking at your hens starting their day, and you close your eyes and say, for this moment, I am here. You can visualize a circle around you. Really, that is a type of circle too, because you just created intentional space. Again, back to the reasons I love visualization. Your imagination is such a powerful tool. Close your eyes, picture your energy expanding, picture a circle forming around you. Picture yourself connecting above, below, within. Your breath becomes air, your courage becomes fire, your emotions become water, and your body becomes earth. You are not pretending. I think you are remembering. Once your circle is created, do your work, your spell, your meditation, your journaling, whatever it is that you're doing. Maybe it's a tarot reading, your moon ritual, or I don't know, just a moment of stillness. Whatever brought you into that space. Because the circle itself is not the destination, it's really just the doorway. It's the threshold. It is the moment where we say, okay, I'm ready. Well, once you have created your circle, we've stepped into the sacred space, we have done our spell work, our meditation, our divination, journaling, ritual, whatever called us there. Now, what? How do we come back? Closing the circle is just as important as opening it. We spend a lot of time talking about entering magical spaces, don't we? Crossing thresholds and going into the unknown. But part of the journey is also learning how to return. Brings us right back to the wolf episodes again, right? The journey of the village, the forest, and the return home. The village represents our everyday life, our responsibilities, our routines, our familiar world. The forest represents transformation and the unknown, the place where we meet something new, where we discover something about ourselves, where we change. And then, there's the return home. And that part matters because the hero does not stay in the forest forever. The seeker does not stay at the crossroads forever. The witch does not stay inside the circle forever. We return, but we return changed. And really, that's what we're practicing when we cast and close a circle. When we open the circle, we are saying, I'm stepping into sacred space. I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to transform. And we enter the forest, right? But when we close the circle, we say, now I bring this back, with me. I bring this wisdom back. Because what good is the lesson if it never leaves the circle, right? What good is the insight if it never changes the way we walk through the world? The magic is not meant to stay there. We carry it forward. Now, practically speaking, closing a circle can be pretty simple. Again, different traditions are going to have different practices. Some of us walk counterclockwise, to release the energy. Some thank the directions. Some thank the elements. Some of us thank our guides, ancestors, spirits, deities, whatever energies we invited into that space. If candles were lit, they will be extinguished. Bells might be rung. The ground might be touched. A deep breath might be taken. Some way just to say, this work is complete. And we are home. That final grounding moment, coming home, it's important because we are physical beings. We live here on earth in bodies with jobs and families and bills and laundry. And as much as I love magical work, a big part of witchcraft is learning how to bring magic into our ordinary life. The goal is never to escape the ordinary, right? The ordinary is sacred too. The circle opens, we enter, we listen, we transform, and the circle closes. We return, and hopefully we bring a little more wisdom back with us. Quick note though. What happens if you forget to close a circle? First, don't panic. I think sometimes we forget that witchcraft is a practice and practices are learned. If you realize later that you never intentionally closed your space, simply ground yourself. Take a breath, give thanks, release the energy, and return. Because remember what we talked about, right? The return is part of the journey. Let's see another quick note. What happens if you break the circle? I've done this one. You create your space, you light your candles, you call the directions, you settle in, and then suddenly you realize, oh my gosh, the pen I need is across the room. Or my tea is still in the kitchen. Or, oh my gosh, my phone is ringing. I forgot to put it on silence. I've had my dog need my attention, right? Hey, I need to go outside right now. So many things. So many things can break the circle. The real world comes knocking. So now what? Did we ruin everything? No, I don't think so. Again, this comes back to how you view the circle. If we think of the circle as this fragile glass bubble where one wrong movement destroys everything, then I think we are putting all of the power into that circle. But remember what we've been talking about, right? The power is not just in the steps, it's in the intention. Now, different traditions handle this differently. In some practices, if someone needs to leave the circle, they will symbolically create a doorway. They may use their hand, wand, or athame to cut an opening. They step through and they close that opening behind them. When they return, they reopen and reseal the space. In essence, respecting the boundary they created. Think about your home. Opening your front door does not mean your house disappears. You simply created an intentional way to move between spaces. You leave, you return, you close the door. The home is still there. Life happens. I don't know, maybe I should say life interrupts. The cat jumps on the altar. The kids need something. The chicken makes a weird noise outside and now you have to go investigate it. Or the dog is just too curious about what is happening there on the floor. The everyday world and the magical world are not enemies. They exist together. So, if your circle gets interrupted, come back, ground yourself, reconnect, return your focus, continue if it feels right. It has happened to all of us. Or you know what? Close the circle. Literally, close the circle with gratitude and come back another time. Maybe the interruption was more than just a coincidence. Maybe something was pulling your attention elsewhere for a reason. Well, let's see. If you were anything like me, you may still be asking, like, how does this actually fit into my life and my practice? When I started getting more serious about my practice in witchcraft, I, was learning about casting a circle before magical work. And suddenly, every little practice became a tad bit more complicated. I was like, I want to pull a tarot card. Wait, do I need a full circle? I want to stir intention in my coffee. Do I need to call the elements? I want to talk to my garden. Do I need a ritual? I think this is super normal, maybe almost expected, until you have your own rhythm and cadence set. So I started this episode by sharing that I don't cast circles often, and I don't. And I think that is because early on, I thought they just had to be more elaborate than they need to be. For whatever reason, you guys, that just stuck with me. Does not mean I can't change how I work with circles moving forward, like I know that, but the core use of them, it's fairly set in my personal practice. So when do we actually need one? Do we cast a circle every single time we do something magical? My answer, eh, depends. And I know, that's not anyone's favorite answer, right? I'm not trying to chicken out on this, but this is where your personal practice begins. This is where witchcraft moves from reading someone else's instructions into building a relationship with your own intuition. For me, not every magical moment needs a formal circle. I believe we are interacting with magic all of the time. When I walk into my garden and talk to my plants, when I watch my chickens and learn from nature, when I sit outside with my morning coffee, when I watch Ragnar, my cat, track spirits entering my home, when I pull a card and reflect on the energy of the day, I am already in relationship with the world around me. I don't personally feel the need to stop and formally cast a circle for every single moment of connection. Because if we go back to what we talked about earlier, the circle is a tool. It is a beautiful tool, but the tool supports a connection. The tool is not the connection. That said, of course, there are times when creating a circle feels really, really important. When I am doing deeper work, shadow work, release work, big moon rituals, ancestor work for sure, moments where I know I'm intentionally stepping into that forest, when I know I'm going somewhere deeper. For me personally, that is when creating a circle helps. It gives me a beginning, a middle, and an end. It reminds me that I am entering, doing the work, and then I am returning home. And this is actually a pretty important part of building your own personal witchcraft practice. Learning when you need structure and learning when you need flow, because both matter, right? Earth teaches us structure, water teaches us flow. Sometimes we need the ritual, right? We need the candle, the smoke, the words, the circle. And sometimes we just need to stand outside and feel the wind, look at the moon, and simply say, thank you. Both of them are sacred. There's a really interesting evolution that happens for a lot of us, if not all of us, in the beginning, we often need more structure. Now, I did. I'm sure you did too. And that's a good thing, right? The steps help us learn, and tools help us focus. The rituals help us understand the energy that we are working with. It's kind of like learning music. At first, you learn the notes, you practice the scales, right? You follow the structure, but eventually the musician starts to play. The artist starts to create. And we do the same thing. The witch starts to listen and form their own practice. So if you are new on this path and casting a circle helps you feel connected, do it. Enjoy it. Make it beautiful. Light the candles, call the directions, create the space, learn the rhythm. But also know that your practice will grow with you. Your relationship with magic will deepen. And over time, you will start recognizing the difference between, am I following steps and I am connected. Really, a witch's circle is not just something we stand inside of, it is something we carry with us. It's our awareness, our boundaries, and our relationship with the world around us. Also, just the raw ability to recognize this moment is sacred. So let's make this practical. When would a witch actually want to cast a circle? Now, again, I don't personally believe every magical moment requires one, but there are times when creating that container can be incredibly powerful. First one is going to be some deep personal work, like shadow work, healing, and release type work. When we are doing deeper inner work and working through things that we have been carrying, these are those moments where we are intentionally entering the enchanted forest. Go back to our wolf again in our journey, right? The village, the forest, the return home. When we do deep, like deep inner work, we are leaving the familiar village for just a little while and walking into the unknown. We are asking questions. We are looking at things we may have avoided. So, creating a circle for this type of work gives us a container, a beginning, a safe place to explore, and most importantly, a way to come back. When the circle closes, we remind ourselves, I learned something here, but I do not have to carry the entire forest home with me. Another good time for creating a container, a circle, is going to be for spell work and energy raising type work, especially when you are building energy towards something. Maybe you are doing a full moon release, a new moon intention ritual, a protection spell, a manifestation practice, a candle spell. I mean, not every candle spell. You guys know what I mean, right? But, anything big where you are gathering your focus and directing your energy. I just mentioned thinking about a circle as or like a bowl holding water, right? This is a good example of that. The circle helps hold the energy that you are creating. It helps your mind shift from, I'm lighting a candle to I'm participating in a sacred act. Same action, different intention. Another good time for casting a circle is going to be with spiritual connections and your journey work. A circle will be very helpful when you are intentionally connecting beyond your everyday awareness. For me, this is when I tend to do more circle work. Again, not the only area, but it's probably my top area. Think about, meditation, ancestor work, connecting with guides, deity work, dream work, and our journey travels. Ooh, deep divination too. Those moments where we are opening ourselves up to listen. The circle becomes a threshold, the doorway, the space between. Since we talked about moments when casting a circle can be supportive, let's talk about the other side. When might a witch not need to cast a circle? This is where we give ourselves permission to have a living, breathing witchcraft practice. Again, a circle is a beautiful tool, right? But remember, the tool helps create the connection. The tool is not the connection. First, I would just say everyday magic and simple connections. The little ordinary moments that personally make my practice very interactive and intentional. Is the magic woven into our daily lives? Stirring your morning coffee with an intention, walking through your garden, talking to your plants, watching birds outside your window, cooking a meal with love, standing barefoot in the grass, watching the moon rise. These moments personally, I don't feel the need to stop everything and create a formal circle because we don't want to step away from life, right? It's here. We are in it. Also, quick intuitive practices. Another good example would just be those small intuitive check ins. Maybe pulling a daily tarot card, writing in your journal, sitting quietly for a few minutes, doing a simple meditation, just checking in with yourself. Could you cast a circle? Yeah, absolutely. If that helps shift your energy and become present, yeah, I'd say do it. Go for it. But you do not have to create a full ritual every time you want to listen to yourself. The last couple of weeks, the wolf reminded us that our intuition is not somewhere outside of us waiting for the perfect ritual. Our intuition is part of us. We do not need a ceremony to hear the forest. We listen because that relationship already exists. Third example would be, things like our study, learning, reading books, researching mythology, studying herbs and learning about the moon, listening to stories and exploring history. Not every part of witchcraft is active magical practice. Sometimes we are the students. We should always remain students in some form or fashion. There is a time to enter the circle and practice, and there is a time to sit beside the fire and learn. And both matter. Just ask yourself, what does this moment need? Does it need a container? Does it need focus? Does it need a clear beginning and a clear ending? Or does it simply need me to, show up, become present, and pay attention? Because sometimes we intentionally step into the circle, right? We create a witch's circle for a reason. We mark the moment, recreate the boundary, and we enter the forest knowing, just knowing we are ready for transformation. And sometimes I think we just realize we're already there. We are already standing in the sacred space. Okay, business witches, let's bring this into our everyday corporate world. Because I think we can all see that a circle is much more than a ritual practice, right? It's a symbol, it's a boundary, it's a container. It is a space created with intention. And once you understand that, I think you're going to start seeing circles everywhere. Your job or business is a circle. Your team is a circle. Your customers and clients are a circle. Your meetings are circles. Your partnerships and relationships are circles. So, the question becomes, are those circles intentional? Or did they just happen? Now, in the beginning, especially when we are trying to build something, we open the circle really wide, don't we? I think we have to. We are learning and growing and figuring out who we are. We say yes to opportunities. We say yes to just about everything in the beginning because we have to start somewhere. We say yes to clients, yes to ideas, yes to possibilities, all as we gather experience. But eventually something changes. The business grows, the energy shifts, and the circle needs to be recast. And you know what? I'm going to go back to the wolf again because what did the wolf teach us? A healthy pack is not a random collection of wolves. A healthy pack works because each member contributes. Each member understands the relationship. Each member brings something to the whole. And business is the same. A healthy business circle is not about having the biggest circle, it's about having the right circle. With my firm's practice growing, I am knee deep into this right now with conversations about expansion, with this merger that looks like it's going to happen, with looking at where we started and where we are going. It has made me really, really look at the circle I created. And I think when you are a business owner for a long time, you have these moments when you realize, hey, the circle that got you here may not be the exact same circle that carries you forward. And that does not mean the old circle was wrong. It just means seasons change, right? The wheel turns. So for all my business witches out there, we ask, who belongs inside this next circle? Who shares the vision? Who strengthens energy? Who supports the mission? Who challenges us in healthy ways? Who helps us grow? Those are good exercises. They're good questions. But then, right, the harder questions, where are the cracks in the circle? Where is energy leaking? Where are we allowing things inside that no longer align? Are we keeping relationships because they're healthy or because they are familiar? And this applies to our clients too. Not every client and customer belongs in every business. That's a tough one, right? Especially when you first start, because every client feels like proof that your business is working. It did for me. Every yes feels like success. But over time, you learn, right? Alignment, respect, and energy all matter. A boundary is not punishment. A boundary defines the space, just like casting a circle. The circle does not say everything outside is bad. It simply says, this is the energy I am choosing to hold here. And a business needs that too. Every meeting really is a circle. I think about that. When your team gathers around a conference table, when, ideas are shared, problems are solved, when decisions are made, you have created a circle. Maybe not with candles and elements, although I support a good office candle, I do. But the intention is the same, right? We are gathering, we are focusing and creating something together. So do not just protect what you have built, honor what you have built, because your business is not just numbers. It's not just emails or invoices or, meetings and tasks. It's people, energy, relationships. It is a living, breathing circle. And every once in a while, the witch, the leader, the creator, we have to stand at the edge of that circle and ask, does this still represent what I am creating? Does this still protect what matters? Does this circle still help everyone inside grow? And if not, maybe it is time to lovingly cast the next circle. So, when would we actually cast a circle in our business? And I don't necessarily mean standing in your conference room with candles and smoke. Again, no judgment, like I do it. Just remember what circle casting really is: creating intentional space, creating a container, a boundary, saying something important happens here. And there are absolutely moments in business where we need that. First one is before big decisions and, those threshold moments, the crossroads moment, the moments where to your core, after this decision, something changes. A new partnership, a new employee, a new location, a new direction, a merger, wink, wink, a closing, a beginning. These are threshold moments. And this is where creating a circle, even symbolically, can be incredibly powerful. Before you step into that decision, create a container. Remove distractions, ground yourself, and ask, what am I building? What am I protecting? What energy am I inviting into this next chapter? Not every opportunity belongs inside your circle. It just doesn't. And growth without intention can become chaos. The circle reminds the leader to expand with purpose. Second example is when people gather. Your teams, your team meetings, your planning sessions, retreats, if you do them, goal setting meetings, brainstorming. Because think back to those first human circles around the fire. What were they doing? Sharing stories, solving problems, creating community, passing down wisdom. Are our meetings really that different? Conference table is a modern circle. The question is, are we treating it like one? When your team gathers, everyone brings energy into that space. Ideas, concerns, creativity, experience. And as the leader, you become the keeper of that circle. You help create a space where people feel heard, where the mission is remembered, where everyone understands, hey, why are we here? What are we creating together? Third example is one we probably don't talk about enough in business: endings, closing circles and letting things go. A client relationship ending, an employee moving on, a service changing, an old way of doing things that just no longer work. We celebrate beginnings, right? We are really good about those. But endings deserve intention too. Because just like we close circles after the work is complete, a business owner, manager, or employee needs to close chapters too. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with clarity. Like, thank you. Thank you for what this season taught me. Now we release. Now we move forward. The biggest business witch lesson for this one, in casting circles at work: we don't cast circles because we are afraid of what is outside. We cast circles because we are responsible for what is inside: the people, the purpose, the energy, the mission, the future, all of it. Because a good leader knows not every opportunity belongs. Not every person belongs. Not every path belongs. And part of building something meaningful in the corporate world is learning what you are willing to hold sacred. Well, let's go back to where we started: a circle. One of the oldest symbols humans have. No beginning, no ending, a continuous journey, a cycle. A reminder that we are always moving, always changing, always becoming. And when we look back at history, I'm pretty sure the first sacred circle was not a complicated ritual. I doubt it was filled with perfect words or perfect tools. Maybe the first circle was simply a group of people gathered around a fire, sharing stories, sharing wisdom, looking up at the stars, trying to understand their place in this great, big, mysterious world. And here we are, thousands and thousands of years later, and I'm not sure if we are really doing something that different. When we gather under a full moon, when we light a candle, when we sit with our journal or pull cards, when we create intentional space, I think we are simply continuing the conversation. Well, I hope today's episode also removes a little bit of fear, if you had any, around this practice of casting a circle. Because I know when we are learning, there are just always those questions. Do I have to cast a circle every time? And no, you don't. Your practice is a relationship. Learn the structure, understand the meaning, and then build a practice that supports your connection. Just remember, circle casting looks different across traditions. I don't think there's one single circle that every witch throughout history has used. We've got different paths. We are different people from different cultures, different practices and beliefs. The circle adapts and changes and grows, just like we do. Okay, I do have a poem and moon update for this week. I'm going to go grab those notes, and I will be right back. All right, I've got a witch's circle poem, and it goes: by candle flame and silver moon, beneath the stars and midnight's tune, I mark this space, I call it mine, between the worlds outside of time. The eastern winds begin to rise, with whispered truths and ancient skies. The southern flame begins to glow, with courage for the path I know. The western waters softly speak of hidden dreams and answers we seek. The northern earth beneath my feet holds roots and bones where wisdom meet. Above me galaxies spin and turn, below me ancient embers burn. Within my heart the magic grows, the witch remembers what she knows. Around the fire, through stone and tree, the circle holds what's meant to be. Not walls of fear, but sacred ground, where lost and hidden parts are found. I enter the forest, I answer the call. I face my shadows, my truth, my all. I gather the lessons the darkness has shown, then carry the wisdom as I return home. The circle opens but never breaks. The path continues with each step I take, for magic was never somewhere apart. The oldest circles live in my heart. Let's see, the moon for Wednesday, the 15th of July. Well, guess what? We are in a super new moon, meaning the moon is near its closest approach to Earth while new. So the lunar symbolism can feel extra emphasized if you do work with moon energy. A super new moon is a wonderful time for us to focus on recasting your circle. Who and what belongs in this next chapter? I'm not trying to be cliche. I know we just talked about circles, but really, new moons are beginnings. But a super new moon invites us into a deeper question. Not just what do I want to start, but what space am I creating for it to grow? Before planting new intentions, look at the circle and ask, what energy am I inviting in? Who stands beside me? What am I protecting? Where maybe have my boundaries become unclear? What needs to stay outside the circle for this next season? Because we're not just going to manifest the future, right? We create the container that will hold it. This is a good time to trust what is growing before you can see it. The sky is pretty dark right now, but this is the fun part about the dark moon sky. Nothing appears to be happening, but everything is actually happening. The seed underground looks inactive. The cocoon looks still. The womb looks quiet. The beginning often happens in darkness. This is a beautiful time to ask, what dream am I nurturing that no one else can see yet? What part of myself is quietly becoming? What am I rushing that actually needs some time? What needs roots before branches? A super new moon is a wonderful time to come home to yourself and that circle we've talked about today. The wolf taught us, I know where my energy begins. The circle teaches us, I choose what energy enters. And now, the new moon? Well, the new moon asks, who am I when all of the outside noise disappears? No roles, no expectations, no proving, just you. Well, next week, we are going to continue walking this wheel together with a topic I'm really excited about: winter witches in summer. Because here we are standing in the brightest, hottest, most outward season of the year. The gardens are growing, the sun is strong, everything around us is saying, move, create, do, become. But what happens when your soul feels a little more winter? What happens when you are naturally drawn to the quiet seasons, the darkness, the reflection, and slower magic? I think so many of us have seasons we love and seasons we are constantly trying to rush through. We wait for fall. We wait for winter, right? We wait for life to feel a little more comfortable again. But the wheel of the year has a lesson in every single turn. Summer has wisdom for us too. So next week we are going to talk about honoring the winter witch inside of all of us while we are still learning to receive the summer gifts. The light, the growth, the visibility, the courage to bloom. So grab your iced coffee, find a little shade, and meet me back here next week as we explore the magic of being a winter witch in summer. Till then, you guys, I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, a great weekend, and I will talk with you next week. Thank you for joining me today at Witchy Work Wishes, a place to find your weekly inspiration for bringing your personal witchcraft practice into your business, work, and office. For more information and additional content, please visit me online at witchyworkwishes.com. If you want to send me a personal note, please email me at info@witchyworkwishes.com. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Just search for Witchy Work Wishes.